Why did I start a YouTube channel? So today is a different type of video. I figured I will record this video today while I'm getting ready for a concert. I'm going to a Dua Lipa concert today. And starting with some dry shampoo. This is a lifesaver right here. Anyway, why did you start a YouTube channel? That's been the question that I've gotten the most since I started my YouTube channel. So I figured I'd do a video about it. And I think, as some of you might know, that I've been more on a artistic journey as of recently, and I think I'm finally completely, after 2 years of reflecting, being back and forth between full-time jobs, between chasing a career in creative fields, in marketing, branding, versus going for opportunity that are a bit more talent-based, a bit more in front of the camera. So this is probably the biggest reason why I decided to do it this way, and I wanted to do a YouTube channel along the way because I wanted to kind of show up and share that journey and hopefully be able to inspire anyone else who's watching to also go on their own journey or figure it out what it is for them, because we all have a different path in life and stories and things that light us up and things that make us feel more fulfilled. And so I have been in a career for the last decade where I just, even though it was a great career growth, I just didn't feel as fulfilled. There was always something knocking. It's almost like a knock on the door that I constantly kept feeling and hearing. It was almost like a lack of something was missing. And ultimately, as I let go of that career more and more, other opportunities started to present themselves, like me going for opportunities like being the talent, being on camera. I've done a lot of stand-in work, I've done a lot of photo double work, and I am now pursuing more acting gigs and auditioning much more and committing to it more, while still having a career but not have it be the main focus. So I still work with select few clients on creative things, but I don't devote all my life to it like I used to in the past. So anyway, I'm getting ready for a Dua Lipa concert today, which I'm so excited about. I feel like Dua Lipa is so big about like the training season and all this stuff, and I really feel like my training season is over too, and it's time for me to fully commit and go all in. And so I decided I'm gonna do a video breaking down why I started. Now I'm going on a whole different topic, but I'm gonna start doing my makeup and talk about why I started YouTube. I've been thinking about YouTube for a while now, and the reason why I like YouTube versus, Instagram or any other platform is because it gives you more of a long-term format. And I feel like with YouTube, it doesn't have to be as polished as, Instagram. I always feel like on Instagram, I need to be so polished and so perfect, especially because I have a creative background. I'm like, everything needs to be like photo shoot, studio, like an editorial. That is just where my head has been, and that's where I keep seeing, even though it's not realistic all the time. And so I'm like, how can I, like, what would be the platform where I could really show up in my most authentic way? And I was weighing down options. I was really like looking at my ideas and content ideas that I have, and I was like, what platform would be best for those type of ideas? And I really wanted to, document my journey as an artist, and me choosing a more artistic path. I just felt like YouTube right now feels like the most true to me, and I don't feel like I have to necessarily come on here and perform. I can just show up. Like right now I'm getting ready and I feel like on Instagram it's not the same. Really, now I lost my train of thought. Storytelling. I realized with branding and the creative work that I was doing for other brands, I worked for fashion and beauty brands, I realized that storytelling was truly what was connecting people, audiences with the brand or their products. And the same goes for, movie industry or anyone in filmmaking, where storytelling is really the core of it all, and emotional connection as well. And I really like the deeper meaning behind things. I always have, and I just feel like you don't get that with content that just goes up on Instagram and then it's gone, and then you have to constantly be creative, constantly producing. And I'm not about that. I like a more timeless storytelling, something that like is authentic, and it's also based on either personal experiences or it's just feels like it's a bit more real. So, and obviously storytelling in a more impactful way needs to be told in a long-term format. So, that is another reason why. And I just feel like I can really show up true to myself on YouTube. And really, whether I talk to the camera or not, or whatever it is, I just feel like you can be more real there. You could be more natural and more authentic anyway. And I think even for me, I'm craving more authentic content nowadays, like people who are pursuing their authentic path, who are seeking their truth and what is true to them. Because I feel like I've navigated through so many versions of myself in my life that I was kind of like feeling like I just wasn't myself in a lot of these moments. In one of my other videos, I've talked about how I lived in 3 different countries, and that gave me like a different sort of identity, and I had to kind of find my way back to myself and reconnect with who I truly am in a way. And so I feel like with YouTube, it feels more like myself. That's really, maybe that's really the answer. I just feel more free to be myself for whatever reason. So I'm just going with that. And I don't have like a whole plan of how my YouTube is gonna be. All I know is I have an underlying theme of it all, is that I'm choosing to live my life more like an artist. And I know that with so much self-discovery work and healing that I've done on myself, and with everything that I've been through, I feel the most lit up when I pursue things like being on camera or expressing myself in a way that is not always behind the scenes, and it's not being in front of the computer all day long. I like to move around. I used to dance when I was younger. I used to play piano. I was always had this like artistic way about me. Ooh. Always had the artistic way about me. My camera was falling. And I think that I've neglected it for a while. And so I really feel like the last 2 years I've like worked really hard to reconnect with that again, with my artistry, with my creativity, for the sake of just creativity, not necessarily producing something or constantly be, serving other brands and creating for others. So it was kind of just really felt like it was my time for me to create for my own sake and to really tune into my intuition and what I was feeling like to create. And that's kind of where I am, and I'm really going into this chapter of kind of going all in. I'm done with splitting my energy into too many different directions, and really kind of redirecting and focusing more on storytelling and more on kind of my vision and on working more freelance. And I'm trying really hard not to go back to a full-time job, even though it is tempting at times. But so far, I've made it freelance for years to pursue, acting on the side, and hopefully that eventually can become my main thing. That's the goal. So I'm definitely making sure that I have space for that, and that I constantly studying and preparing and putting myself out there. I've been auditioning more, and I've been studying more, and I just been reading more. So like everything I was reading in the last 2 years was more about self-discovery and like a lot of inner work that I had to do on myself. And now I feel like it's time to really focus on acting, studying acting, like being a student, having that as the main focus of study. I love learning, so now I get to use all those self-discovery tools. I get to use those for characters, which is so much more fun than to just do it for yourself, But I think you can relate once you do it for yourself. You can relate to it so much more because you have so much more insights. It's like psychology. I feel like in another life I would have studied psychology. Or if I grew up in LA, I probably would have studied acting or filmmaking. That for sure would have been a thing. But I studied in Europe, so that part was gonna be much harder to do there than it is in LA. Yeah, that's kind of my story. I mean, it's not even that long of a story, but that's sort of the story why I started. Thank you for joining. This was a very raw and on-the-go video, and it's also my first video that I'm like doing something and talking at the same time. It's not easy to do, but I'm glad that I did it, and I hope this resonates, and hope that it helps or inspires someone in some way. And until next time.